Hello, hello, Mordimers here, and welcome to the semi-finals of Clutch Chess International 2020. We have top 4 players, and now we had at least 5 or 6 really great games. And this time I'm gonna choose the game between Fabiano Caruana, who is number 2 in the world in standard time control. His rapid ranking 2773. He is number 11 in the world, and he's gonna play as white. And this is clutch game. The first 2 games were won by Wesley So. Then we had the 2 draws. And this time Fabiano Caruana, if want to equalize, have to win at least one of the clutch games. And Wesley So, his rapid ranking 2741, so he's number 21 in the world, and he's gonna play as black. So without further ado, let's see this exciting game. We have e4 by Fabiano Caruana, e5, knight on f3, knight on c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, and now b4, Evans Gambit. And I would like to show you this picture, so feel free to leave the comment who is on this picture with Fabiano Caruana. As you see, Fabiano Caruana doesn't scare to play Evans Gambit, and it's very double-edged opening where everything can happen, and both sides should play really precisely or not, because as I said, it's very double-edged, and even if it's, you know, you get the winning position, it's not always so clear how to continue the game. And if you don't know about Evans Gambit, the most famous Evans Gambit played ever was in the 19th century. This was evergreen game, and this game is famous because it was analyzed for 150 years. Can you imagine that? If you haven't seen that game, check my analysis over there. I talk about Evans Gambit much more, and I show more lines, very interesting lines. And also I think this is ultimate analysis with all of the lines revealed even 150 years later. So bishop on b4, this is the main line, and now we have c3, kicking the bishop, and the main line here is bishop on a5, bishop a5, d4, and the game has a lot of very sharp variations. However, bishop on e7, Anderson variation, is preferred by Wesley So. We have d4 as planned, and now knight a5. So in Anderson variation, this is called actually quarter line, and this bishop should retreat. There is some line where you can take the pawn on e5, and then, you know, get this bishop back and stay with this very strong center. However, light square bishop is so valuable that most people play bishop on e2, and Caruana plays bishop on d3. This of course is also playable. We have d6, and now white gonna get back the pawn, so d takes on e5, d takes on e5, knight takes on e5, and knight f6. One of the most important principles in Evans Gambit is rapid development for white and for black, especially for black. If black stands, you know, behind in development, this can be very deadly. We have castle, queen on c2, and bishop on d6, attacking this unprotected knight. Knight retreat to f3 with the threat e5. There is a lot of threats in this opening, so both sides, you know, have to be very precise. Knight on c6, now controlling e5, and bishop g5, pinning the knight. We have h6, bishop on h4, and here Wesley So has his idea g5. And he plays g5 quite often in many openings, and after bishop on g3, which normally is played, it was played a couple of times in this line of the opening, knight on h5 is coming. However, Wesley So exchanged this bishop on d6, so bishop on g3, and after h takes on g3, g4. And now this is not really the greatest idea, because knight h4, and how you want to, you know, eliminate this knight. It's on the side, but however, it watching at f5, okay? And now it cannot go now because it can be exchanged for the bishop, but it's always keep the eye on f5. So here, for example, knight on e5 was played by Wesley So, but he still cannot go to g6 because after bishop on e2, this was played in the game as the bishop was under attack. If you try knight on g6, the problem is e5. And the knight is under attack, the g6 pawn is under attack, and you're just gonna lose the game. So not this way. Rook on e8 was played here by Wesley So, and now rook and the knight put the pressure on e4. If this knight moves somewhere, definitely not on g6, that's not the greatest idea. This pawn gonna be under attack. So we have knight on d2, temporary defending e4, but there is a different idea for this knight. This knight actually should be remaneuvered to f5, and now together with this knight, this outpost for the knight gonna be really strong. So Wesley So plays b6. Not sure what is the idea. It seems like bishop b7 and putting more pressure on e4. That would stop this maneuvering the knight. However, the problem is after rook a on d1, now there are of course some discoveries. So we have queen on e7, rook f on e1. If you play bishop on b7, this knight can actually jump immediately to f5. Okay, so Wesley So changed his mind and play bishop on e6. We have knight on f1, rook a on d8, and now knight e3 as planned. Queen on c5, and now knight e on f5, okay? And the idea here is move the queen to c1 and attack on h6, okay? And that will be deadly. So Wesley So exchanged the rooks. We have rook on d1, rook on d1, and now h5. And now there are no possibilities of, you know, moving the queen to h6. And I mean, of course, it's possible. However, the problem is after queen on d2, let's say, knight e4 with the attack on the queen and attack on f2. Here is the problem. So even you move to h6, the problem is a queen f2 and attacking this knight twice, okay? So after king on h1, bishop f5, and after exchanging the pieces, black have one extra piece, and white doesn't even have any compensation for that. The attack is gone, that's all. This is all. And also look at this, the knight can jump to f2. This is just disaster. So it doesn't work anymore. So what to play as white? What would you play as white? Fabiano Caruana goes for rook on d4. Very nice move. Now cutting the queen from reaching f2, this is one idea, but also defending e4, so the knight cannot jump here. So now the queen can go to c1 and h6, okay? This is the idea. So queen on f8 now, controlling h6 by Wesley So. We have queen on d2 anyway. Now the queen can come to g5, and to prevent that we have knight on h7. And here Fabiano Caruana actually decided to play a4, multi-purpose move, and very prophylactic, very nice move, because now the bishop actually attacks a2. And now if queen want to move, for example, to f4, then the pawn would be under attack, and then black would have the very nice counterplay with the passed pawn. So this is the first idea. And also a4, and black doesn't really have a chance to create any passed pawn on the queen side. Even having, you know, 3 pawns against 2 pawns, it's not enough. This bishop controls these squares. This pawn also stops the advancing. Not so easy. It takes a lot of moves to create, you know, any advantage, and it's probably even not possible. So knight on c6 by Wesley So, and here Fabiano Caruana could play bishop on b5, and now look at this. You cannot defend the knight. And the knight is pinned. So probably your only option is knight on d4, and after knight on h6 with check, king g7, c takes on d4. Yes, you can save that rook d8, but after d5, Look at the position. This diagonal is open, so the queen can jump there. Also, the knight still can operate on f5 and control a lot of squares there. This bishop can join back this attack. It just doesn't look, you know, good for black. And it's still not so easy to find decisive attack, but it's much easier, you know, to attack by white. However, we have knight on h6 by Fabiano Caruana immediately, and now Wesley So said in the interview that he wanted to play king on h8, and then he just decided in the last moment, hey, it's losing the piece, because after king on h8, bishop b5, and now you don't have any knight on d4, because queen d4 comes with check, okay? And then if you play something like f6, you're gonna lose the queen. This is the problem. And if you try queen on g7, which looks better, you're just losing this rook. And black even cannot take the knight because queen is pinned. Okay, so a very easy win for white. So luckily for Wesley So, he figure out this in the last moment and play king on g7. And now again, bishop b5. This was the idea still on the board, and could play that. However, Fabiano Caruana decide knight from the 4th rank goes to f5 with check. And now what to play next? We have king on g6. And here Fabiano Caruana thought for really long, because now his attack, it looks like everything is great, but what to play next, how to attack the king? He has the feeling like, okay, I'm winning, but how to, you know, how to play? So he decided for bishop on d3, putting the bishop on the same diagonal, and there could be some tactics. So for example, knight on d4, first knight h4 with the check, king g7, c takes on d4, and black have to play something, let's say rook on d8, queen f4, very standard here, rook d7 bringing some defender, and then after check, exchange some pieces, king have to move somewhere, king h8, e5 now, and look at this. This bishop attacks over there, but it's still not clear, you know, how to continue this attack. It's definitely, there are some ideas here, but not so easy, not so easy. This is the problem. So so knight on d4 doesn't look good. However, it's very difficult to find other moves. We have knight on g5 by Wesley So. So slowly he tried to advance and find some counterplay. And now e5, that was the main idea, of course, here, would not really work, because after e5, knight can take on e5, and if you want, for example, win the exchange, you cannot. King h6, and you just give the rook for 2 knights. And these 2 knights would be, you know, very, very happy to jump on f3 and make some family fork. This would be just, you know, awesome. So Fabiano first play queen on f4, now controlling e5 to move e5 pawn, but now f6, bringing a control to e5. So fight for the e5 square, and now bishop b5. Attacking this knight and pinning that. However, this was the position where white probably, because the engine shows and all grandmasters in the studio said that queen c7 cutting the king, however, is not really clear how to continue. For example, knight on d4, c takes on d4, rook c8, queen b7. Yes, your queen cut the king, but you don't have decisive blow. You don't have any tactics here. This is the problem. So Fabiano Caruana played bishop on b5, okay? Pinning the knight, and now, of course, the defending of this knight is not possible. So now, finally, we have knight on d4, bishop on e8, it comes with check, queen e8, c takes on d4, and now Wesley So just exchange everything, bishop on f5, and now you even cannot take with f5, because if you take with f5, king h6, queen f6, and you're not gonna win the knight, because queen can retreat to g6. You have to take with the knight, and this is what happened. queen e4 by Wesley So. So from this position where Fabiano Caruana has, you know, so much to play, very strong attack, but it was so difficult to you know, find the blowing moves. And even if you analyze that with the engine grandmasters tried, there are no, you know, real blows, you know, any tactics over there. It's just you have some advantage, but you don't see how to, you know, capitalize that and win the game. So now we have knight on h4 with check, king on f7, and now queen on c7, winning back some material. So now the material is equal. We have queen on e7. Of course, you know, when you have the winning position, you still want to win. Even it's, you know, more drawish, you still want to win. You estimate the position as better for you. Usually you are very optimistic. We have queen on c4, queen on e6, and now d5. And now if queen on e1, for example, king h2, queen f2, the problem is d6. This pawn gonna march against the king, and now you cannot stop it. Okay, queen c8 with check, king f7, and now d7, and you're gonna win. And even you play something like knight on e4 with the plan of mating. There is a mating idea here. For example, if white plays some, okay, I don't know, stupid move, then the problem is queen on g3. Okay, and then you are just get checkmated. Okay, that's just a checkmate. So even you try to play something like knight on e4, it's still not enough, because white gonna win faster. Queen e8, king g7, and now queen g6. Okay, king h8, and now this is a checkmate. So Wesley didn't go for any queen e1. This attack is just, you know, one tempo too slow, and he just wait for his chance. Queen on d6, and now queen on d3, with the idea of attacking the king this way. We have queen on e5, and now if white tries something like d6 and king e8, let's say queen g6, king d7, knight f5, it looks pretty good, you know, defending the pawn. However, now queen e1, king h2, queen f2, and there are already some mating ideas here. So white would have to play something like king on h1, something like that, maybe knight on h4 to, you know, to just try to draw. So it's not so easy, you know, to continue that. So we have queen on g6, and now king on e7, knight on f5, very similar idea, king on d8, and now king h2 first. So moving the king to the safety, not giving, you know, any tempo on with the check on e1. We have knight on e4 now by black, and now queen g8 with check, king on d7, queen on f7, king on d8, knight on g7. So something is going on. It looks like it's you know, some strong attack, some mating ideas maybe, but not really. Now we have h4, and now g3 is attacked 3 times. Okay, so here is the first problem of the position. We have knight on e6, king on c8, and for now the queen controls c7. So if queen on e8, actually it doesn't really work, because after king on b7, queen on c6, and now of course not king on a6, because after knight on c7 you're gonna get checkmated. So not this way, you would have to give the queen and play without the queen, but rather king on b8, and there is no attack for white. For example, queen on e8, king on b7. Okay, you can play knight on d7, try some tricks, but the queen is defended. Okay, queen is defended by the pawn, so no problem here. King c8, and now knight e6, you have to go back, king b7, and there is nothing here. So Fabiano Caruana tried to get this pawn, but there is one huge problem with that. Because after queen on g8, this is what he played, king on b7, and here actually Fabiano Caruana should just accept the draw. This he can, you know, do some perpetual checks and just draw. However, he wants to win, and at first he wants to eliminate this threat. So he played queen on h7 with the attack on the king and this pawn. The problem is after king on a6, he cannot take this pawn, because after he takes the pawn and he he did that in the game. Wesley So 2 minutes on the clock, and Fabiano Caruana just seconds on the clock. He plays on his incrementation plan, and Fabiano Caruana missed knight on f2, and now checkmate is coming. And you cannot stop that checkmate. This is another checkmate. So he couldn't defend. He just missed that. He tries queen on h8. We have queen on e1. Now mate is coming. And now knight c5. Okay, setting up the trap. So queen on h8 and knight on c5. Very, very nice trap. The problem is Wesley So cannot take the knight, because if he takes the knight, then queen on c8 with check, and if you move, for example, king on b6, you're gonna get checkmated here, and if you play king on a5, there is a perpetual check. So last chance where Fabiano Caruana understood, okay, that is my last chance. So after queen on c5, king a4, queen on c4, there is not much can be done here. Okay, let's say this way. Now queen c2, queen a3, queen c5 again, and if black tries, for example, to stop that, then white just exchange the queens, and this pawn gonna advance and win the game. Here is the problem. Okay, so a knight on c5, very, very nice trap, but of course Wesley So didn't fall into that trap. He played king on a5, and in this position Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, and he resigned because checkmate is coming. All he can do is one check, and after king on a4, just throw the queen, and yeah, that's all. So Wesley won this clutch game, and here are the standings. So as you see, Magnus Carlsen first games won, then we had the 2 draws, and in decisive clutch game he just crashed Levon Aronian, and in the second game we had the draw. So current score 6-2, and today they're gonna play another part of the semi-finals, and Levon Aronian is a very, very difficult situation, and Fabiano Caruana against Wesley So exactly the same. So first 2 wins by Wesley So, then we had 2 draws, and this was the clutch game with the Evans Gambit at the end, 2-6, again the same score. So yeah, that's the situation. So we had more interesting games in this, but this tournament goes really, really fast, and we're gonna have another games. So if you want to see another games, just, you know, press subscribe, smash the bell button. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.